All right, so imagine this. Okay, it's the 17th century. The Netherlands is like this bustling hub, right? Amsterdam is just overflowing with ships. And these ships are bringing in all this exotic stuff from the East. Spices, silks, porcelain. It's like insane.
All thanks to the Dutch East India Company.
Yeah, exactly. The VOC.
The VOC.
And I mean, they were a powerhouse.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking fleets larger than some countries had for their navies.
Wow.
Revenues that just dwarfed, what entire European states were bringing in.
It's like the Google or Amazon of their time.
Yeah, but with cannons.
With cannons, yeah, that's a bit of a difference. So how did this corporate titan even get started? Like, what was the spark that created the VOC?
Well, I mean, you can't really talk about the VOC without talking about the context, right?
Right.
So picture this. The Netherlands is fighting for its independence from Spain. They emerge victorious, and boom, they're a major player on the world stage. They're already experts in trade and finance.
So they saw an opportunity to kind of like level up.
Exactly. But here's where it gets kind of wild.
Okay.
The VOC wasn't built from scratch. It was actually the result of all these smaller Dutch trading companies.
Oh, interesting.
Merging, coming together. And get this, the Dutch government basically gave them a monopoly on trade with Asia.
Wait, hold on. Monopoly.
Yeah.
Like the board game Monopoly?
Very much, yeah.
So like no one else could compete.
The VOC had exclusive rights to trade in the East Indies.
Wow.
So they basically called all the shots.
That's incredible power.
Oh, yeah. Imagine being able to control the prices, dictate the terms.
Your entire nations.
Entire nations, yeah. We're talking insane wealth here.
Okay, so far this is sounding like a total success story, but
Yeah.
I mean, we know that the VOC didn't exactly like conquer the world forever, right?
Right.
So what happened? What was their downfall?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
You see, the VOC's success, in a way, was also its undoing. They got too big, too fast.
Too much of a good thing.
And some of their own innovations, things we still use today, might have contributed to their demise.
Oh, so they were kind of like the pioneers who accidentally like walked off the map.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I am hooked. Tell me more.
All right, so picture this. The VOC was the world's first publicly traded company.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. They issued shares on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange,
Wow.
allowing everyday people to buy a piece of the action.
So they were letting people like invest in the company.
Exactly. And they even pioneered this idea of limited liability.
Limited liability.
Meaning, investors could only lose what they put in.
Oh, okay.
Sound familiar?
Yeah, like every stock I nervously watched today.
Exactly.
So they were like way ahead of their time.
Oh, for sure. But that's where things get a little tricky.
Oh, okay. How so?
Because it meant they had this immense pressure to keep those shareholders happy, to deliver those profits.
No matter what.
No matter what, yeah.
Gotcha. So let's dive into that, like the golden age of the VOC. They were like the rock stars of the 17th century. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Controlled the spice trade. Nutmeg, cloves, pepper, anything you could imagine coming from the East.
Wow.
And they had ships. I mean, sailing all over the place. Europe, Africa, Asia.
Their network was vast.
Vast, yeah. And get this. They even had their own private armies. And fleets.
Wait a minute. A company with its own army?
Yep.
That's insane. That's like something out of a movie. What did they even need an army for?
Well, that's the thing, right? With great power
Comes great responsibility.
Well, yeah, you know the rest. But the thing is, sure, the VOC brought incredible wealth to the Netherlands, but it also fueled massive corruption, unchecked greed.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Officials using company money for personal gain, giving top jobs to their buddies, zero oversight.
So it was almost like
Wrecking time bomb.
Yeah, like a ticking time bomb. So they were building this incredible empire, but at the same time, like planting the seeds of their own destruction.
You could say that, yeah. They reached a point where their expansion was just unsustainable. It was almost like a game of Monopoly where you own everything but can't afford the rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the cracks in the foundation here, so they overextended themselves, right?
Exactly. Maintaining this massive empire with all the ships and fortresses, the soldiers, it was just bleeding them dry.
Yeah.
Plus, managing a global operation like that, it's not easy.
Right.
They got bogged down by bureaucracy and inefficiency.
I would imagine.
It was just a recipe for disaster.
So it sounds like there were all these internal problems brewing. But what about external factors? Did anything else contribute to their downfall?
Oh, yeah, for sure. While the VOC was dealing with all this stuff internally, the world around them was changing too. Remember those spices they had a monopoly on?
Yeah, the nutmeg, the cloves, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, they kind of flooded the market. Too much supply led to prices just tanking. And suddenly those spices weren't the cash cows they used to be.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt. So they're losing money on their, like, star products.
Right. And on top of that, European tastes were shifting tea, coffee, sugar. They were the hot new commodities.
Yep.
And you know who was dominating those markets? The
Yeah.
British and the French.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So not only were their old moneymakers failing, they were getting squeezed out of the new trendy market.
Exactly. Talk about a double whammy.
Yeah, that's rough. What about the Dutch public, though? Weren't a lot of them invested in the VOC?
That's a great point. You hit on something crucial. Remember how the VOC was the first publicly traded company?
Yeah.
Well, that meant ordinary Dutch citizens had bought into the hype. They poured their savings into VOC shares.
So they were, like, literally invested in the company's success.
Exactly. And as the VOC's troubles mounted, public anger started to grow. People felt betrayed, not just by the company's mismanagement, but by the government for letting it all happen.
It's like a reminder that even back then, economics and politics were totally intertwined.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So we've got a company on the brink of collapse. Public trust is eroding, and there's rising competition on the global stage. This is not looking good.
It wasn't. And the domino effect of the VOC's downfall, it had repercussions far beyond the Netherlands. Remember that massive debt they had racked up?
Yeah, all those ships and soldiers. They don't come cheap.
Well, in 1799, the inevitable happened. The VOC, once the mightiest trading company in the world, declared bankrupt.
Bankrupt? Wait, how could a company that powerful, that rich, actually go bankrupt? It's almost unthinkable.
It shows you how badly things had spiraled. Their debts were just too huge to sustain. It's like a giant ship taking on water faster than the crew can bail it out. Eventually, it sinks.
Wow.
In this case, the Dutch government had to step in, nationalize the VOC's assets and liabilities.
So basically, a government bailout, ouch, that must have been a huge blow to the Dutch economy.
It was a massive hit.
Yeah.
The VOC's debt, it just added to the already heavy national burden. The Netherlands faced decades of economic stagnation.
Wow, so the ripple effects were huge. It wasn't just about the company going under. It impacted the entire country.
Exactly. And it went beyond economics, too. The Dutch Republic, once a major global power, they lost a lot of their influence. It paved the way for British dominance in trade and colonization. It marked the end of the Dutch Golden Age.
Okay. So we've covered the rise and fall of the VOC, this epic saga of ambition, greed, and ultimately collapse. But what about its legacy? What lessons can we, centuries later, learn from this corporate giant?
That's the most important part, isn't it? The VOC might be gone, but its story is incredibly relevant today, especially when we look at modern corporations and the global economic system.
I'm all ears. What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway? What's the big lesson here?
All right, so we've been talking about the Dutch East India Company, right? Their rise, their fall, and all the impact it had, not just on the Netherlands, but like the whole world.
And it's a story packed with cautionary lessons, but also like these surprising innovations that we still use today, in the business world. Yeah, we touched on this a bit earlier, but let's dive deeper into their role as like financial pioneers. I mean, they were like the Silicon Valley disruptors of their day, right?
Absolutely. I mean, remember, they were the first publicly traded company issuing shares on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange way back in the 17th century.
Wow. Yeah.
That was revolutionary.
Revolutionary.
They figured out how to like raise massive amounts of capital by, selling pieces of the company to the public.
So are we saying they basically invented the stock market?
Well, I mean, they certainly laid the groundwork for it.
That's incredible.
And that's not all.
Okay.
They also pioneered this concept of joint stock ownership. They give it like a massive group project, right? Where everyone chips in and then they share in the profits or, the losses.
Ah, so that's where that comes from. It's like everywhere today.
Exactly. And then you've got limited liability.
Right. Limited liability.
VOC, they understood that investors needed some protection. So they created this system where people could only lose what they invested. I mean, no one wanted to risk their entire fortune on, some risky voyage to the East Indies.
Smart move. That's like one of the basic principles of investing today.
Exactly.
It's amazing to think that like these financial tools that we just take for granted, they have their roots in in this 17th century trading company.
It really shows how ingenious they were. They were masters at like mobilizing capital and funding these ambitious ventures, but their story also highlights the potential pitfalls of financial innovation, especially when it's not like balanced with ethical considerations.
That's a really good point. Like their innovations were incredible, but it was their reckless pursuit of profit that ultimately led to their downfall,
You
right?
got it. Think about it. Their dependence on public investment, the constant pressure to deliver those returns for the shareholders,
Yeah.
it fueled their risky expansion, unsustainable practices. They were stuck in this cycle of just trying to outdo themselves.
So in a way, their own success became their biggest liability.
Precisely. They were so focused on those short-term gains that they completely missed the long-term risks. It's a cautionary tale for any business, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a reminder that financial innovation, yeah, it's powerful, it's a tool, but it needs to be guided by ethical
Sure.
principles and a commitment to sustainability.
I couldn't agree more. I think the VOC's story is a powerful lesson for modern corporations operating in today's complex global economy.
So so if the VOC were around
Yeah.
today, right? What advice would you give them based on everything we've learned? What's like the key takeaway?
I tell them to prioritize responsible corporate governance above all else. Transparency, accountability, ethical behavior, those are non-negotiables. You have to build trust, not just with your shareholders, but with your employees, your customers, the wider community.
Yeah. It's about creating a sustainable model, a business model that benefits everyone, not just the people at the top.
Exactly. And I'd urge them to be mindful of the human cost of their actions. I mean, the VOC's colonial legacy, it's a stark reminder that economic power, it should never come at the expense of human rights or environmental well-being.
Those are really powerful lessons and one that we can all learn from, right? Whether we're running a multinational corporation or just trying to make responsible choices in our own lives.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the VOC's story, as dramatic and complex as it is, it reminds us that history is full of valuable lessons, and we can use those lessons to guide us towards a more ethical, sustainable future.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive into the Dutch East India Company. We've talked about their meteoric rise, their spectacular fall, their innovations, their mistakes, and the enduring legacy that they left behind.
It's a story that continues to fascinate us challenge us. Even centuries later, it offers these insights into the nature of power, ambition, and that enduring human quest for wealth and influence.
So, what are your takeaways from the VOC story? What are the lessons that really resonate with you? Head over to the comments and share your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you.